So you will recall that back in the Democratic primary, Cardi B, of course, endorsed Bernie Sanders and sat down with him for a big exchange. Well, now she is sitting down with Joe Biden and actually asking him and making some more informed comments than many of the political interviewers who do this professionally have done. So let's take a listen to some of that.
I need somebody to tell me, like, this is going to be over when we find this cure. This is why it's taking so long. This is why other countries are doing better than ours when it comes to this pandemic. I need somebody to tell me the truth, the hardcore truth. And also, I, of course, want free Medicare. And this is why it's important to have free Medicare, because look what's happening right now. You see why we should have been have free Medicare for a long time. I, of course, think that we need free college education. That's second. And I want Black people to stop getting killed and no justice for it. I'm tired of it.
So free college, Medicare for all, and also criminal justice reform. All three things that public opinion has moved on during the pandemic and during the protests, and which Joe Biden still stands adamantly
So
against.
according to that transcript, which I unfortunately had to read, not for Cardi B's sake, but for the Biden answers, she actually asked him about free Medicare for all specifically 4 separate times throughout the interview. And in every single time, he didn't respond. And it's kind of amazing. I mean, because you see how, A, he's able to just go after it and just basically shirk what was an overwhelmingly popular position in the Democratic primary. And we covered that polling here so many times, which is that voters, I think, at a 3-to-1 margin, Democratic primary voters, to be specific, supported Bernie's position on healthcare and actually trusted him more on that issue than any other candidate within that race. And Biden has just been openly antagonistic towards it. And again, that's I think what the craziest part of it all is. And you actually, I mean, David Sirota uncovered some new reporting showing that in terms of their commitment to what their supposed solution was, they're not even committed to that.
Right. So, of course, the Biden plan, healthcare plan, is supposed to be a public option, right? And Bernie actually touted this somewhat in the DNC speech that he gave last night, saying, look, he's not where I am on healthcare, but he does want to expand coverage. Well, this was actually some reporting from The Hill that Sirota picked up on here. Dem operatives are already saying, as congressional aides, outside healthcare advisors, et cetera, already saying that, well, that whole public option thing, let's not go crazy with that. They are preparing a more modest package of fixes to Obamacare in an effort to get some early points on the board. If you are not committed to the expansion of healthcare in a serious way during a pandemic when millions of people have lost their healthcare, when is it going to be the convenient moment for you to go ahead and tackle this problem? The truth is, it never will be. And that's the thing that you always brought up during the primary. It's not even so much about like what you say your positions are. What are you going to fight for? Like when it comes down to it and you have a limited amount of political capital in your first 100 days, when you got to put the screws to your team and get something through, what are you going to do? The only person who credibly was going to do anything on healthcare really was Bernie Sanders. And Joe Biden, we really still don't know what it is that he's actually going to fight for. But here we are, classic Dems. You haven't even won yet. You're not even in office. You back the guy who already had the compromised position, and now you're further compromising from the compromise. Like, it's just too perfect.
You know, Joe Biden could be the most transformative president, you know, almost since in history since FDR, if he wanted to, but he doesn't want to. And Trump doesn't seem to want to either. And that's part of what the more mystifying things about this entire moment, political moment is that he could have a massive mandate. He could win 400 electoral votes if he really tried. He could come into Congress with majorities in the Senate and the House. But what are they going to do? Watch last night. You don't know. I have no idea what they're going to be doing. Governor Cuomo got to speak. He's writing a book, I found out today. He'll be writing a book about leadership during his time with the pandemic. It's like, what?
You're trying to make me cry.
And I'm sure, and by the way, it will be a national bestseller. We all can guarantee you that.
Yes.
So it's full of lies. You know, we'll probably never address the fact that he murdered people in nursing homes. So,
something tells me that little detail will be left out.
It will be left out. It's just, everyone is pushing status quo, both sides. And it's amazing that nobody, I say this all the time, the most potent political force in the history of the United States is sitting right there. 100 million people do not vote who are eligible to do so. Most of them are poor. Most of them are working class. Most of them are left out of our culture, left out of our economy, and so much more. Nobody cares about them. They don't even want to appeal.
And here's the thing. I mean, Biden's winning.
Yeah, I know.
In some polls by double digits, although it has seemed to narrow a bit recently. And can you imagine what kind of a lead he could have, what kind of an electoral landslide and mandate he could be headed towards if he actually was going to lay out a vision of, hey, you know what? This whole pandemic has exposed that our healthcare system is rotten to its core. We're going to make sure everybody gets healthcare. We're going to make sure people stay in their homes. We're going to make sure that while the economy is still recovering and we recognize that road is long, that you are not going to starve, that your family is going to be okay. Like, lay that out. It's not that
Trump
complicated.
Didn't do that either, and he easily could have.
Neither one of them is. And so it's just outrageous that you have this moment when the country is begging for help, begging for that transformational change that you're talking about. This is the moment when you could truly set the country on a different course, not just to deal with the pandemic, but for years and years to come. And people are begging, election after election, who wins? The change candidate.
Yes.
Election after election, people are saying we want something different. And both of these two candidates seem to be saying like, well, I don't know about that. Let's just stick with the status quo. Let's just try to go back to normal or whatever that is. Or in Trump's case, it's just the fear-mongering about the left-wing Marxists and let me throw you some like red meat for the culture wars. It is the biggest political and policy failure that I can possibly imagine here. And I think his comments and his adamant refusal, he got asked again. He had said before that if Medicare for All came to his desk, he would veto it. He got asked again about it, and he still was like, well, first of all, it's not going to come to my desk, and second of all, yes, I would still veto it.
Yeah, I mean, it tells you everything you need to know about our political system. We've had 4 consecutive change elections, and nothing has changed. And if you vote for Biden, nothing's going to change either. And if you vote for Trump,
promised you that.
I don't necessarily see a lot going on there either. So
very true.
Great. Okay.
More Rising for you after this.